For over 60 years, Sam has been the same steady face on TV and in movies. He was the tough-looking guy who also had kind, soft eyes. He was a man who could say things so real that you believed him right away. He's been in more than 100 movies, huge TV shows, and is known as one of Hollywood's best workers. But underneath his cowboy clothes and beard, he was a man whose heart always knew a special kind of love. A love he couldn't talk about in the famous world he lived in. The TV interview started like any other talk show. He was there to talk about his latest job, to chat about his wife and their life, and maybe share some fun stories from old Hollywood. But then the host leaned in close with lots of questions shining in her eyes and asked the thing that changed everything. Sam, in all your years doing this, there must be things you've kept secret. Things the world doesn't know about you. Right then, something changed in Sam's face. A door that had been closed for 80 years suddenly swung wide open. He took a long, deep breath, the kind you take when you're about to say something that will change your whole life story. He looked right at the camera, right at all the people watching, and a sparkle that meant trouble was in his eyes. "Yeah," he said, his voice calm and steady. "There are 7 men who knew me in ways the public never would have guessed. 7 actors I shared more than just acting with. 7 men who saw the real Sam Elliott, the one underneath the mustache and the famous character." The room became super quiet. The host's hand shook a little as she reached for her notebook. This was not the interview anyone planned for. This was a man who decided at 81 years old that it was time to tell his true story. "I've never hidden who I am," Sam went on, his Texas voice deep with feeling. "But I've chosen carefully what I shared. These 7 men, though, they should be known. They should have their names said out loud in the light instead of whispered as secrets in the dark." The first name was said slowly, like a warm fire starting. "Gary Oldman," he said, leaning back in his chair. "That man could get inside your head in ways you didn't expect. When they worked on that movie way down in New Mexico, there was something in the way he looked at you that made the rest of the world vanish. Gary had a super strong feeling, a real wild power that made people want to be near him like bugs to a light. He wasn't scared of anything, and that braveness showed in everything he did. When Gary moved, it was on purpose and controlled. When he talked, it was like a poem. And when he touched you, it was like a burst of electricity you couldn't deny. Those weeks together were quick, secret times between scenes, late nights in the trailers, talks that started about acting and somehow ended up being much closer. Gary had this special way of making you feel like you were the most important thing in the whole world. He could kiss you so gently and so strongly that you'd forget your own name, and he had hands that knew exactly how to touch a man. Sam's voice became very soft. "I loved Gary," he said simply. Not in a way that fit into the boxes people wanted, just loved him fully. The way your inside self loves another inside self. He was like finally being seen. He was finally being able to be myself and having that person see me and still want me. The second name rolled off his tongue with warmth and excitement. "Jack Nicholson," he said, smiling at the memories like they were a tasty drink. "Now there's a man who gets being dark and light better than anyone." Jack had this wild, crazy energy that was thrilling and dangerous in a good way. He didn't care what people thought. Jack chased after fun with total belief and no apologies. When he wanted something, he went for it hard. When he wanted you, there was no waiting, just a raw, honest wish. Their connection burned bright, but for a short time during a movie party in Cannes. Secret moments between watching films. Jack had a way of making everything feel like a movie, like every moment was being filmed by a director from space. He'd pour you a drink very carefully, then look at you with those deep eyes and you'd know you were about to feel something you'd never forget. The way Jack walked through the world was exciting. He didn't worry about people judging him because he knew it was going to happen anyway. "Jack taught me not to say sorry for wanting what I want," Sam said, his voice calm. "He taught me that wanting things isn't bad or embarrassing, that being honest about what you need is being brave. Jack never pretended to be anything else but what he was, and that realness changed how I understood myself." The third name brought a softer look mixed with true love and sadness. "River Phoenix," he said quietly, his eyes looking far away into a memory. "That beautiful, troubled person." River was like a fireball flying across the sky, super bright. And too quick to last. He had this dreamy feeling like he was a little outside of regular time and space. River was like a poem come to life, and he could talk about world problems, deep thoughts, and religion and somehow make it all feel like art. In private, away from the cameras, River was kind and gentle in a way that made your heart ache. He didn't want to take over you. He wanted to understand you, to truly know you, to explore you both physically and spiritually. Sam's voice got softer, tinged with sadness. River was young and wild, looking for something he couldn't ever find. We had maybe 6 months together, quick moments between his work and his causes. He made me feel alive in ways I didn't know were possible. He was curious about everything, including me, including what it meant for a younger man to be with an older man. And then he was gone. The world lost something very important, and I lost someone I didn't know I needed. The fourth name came with a deeper smile, one that suggested memories that were mixed with care and complexity. Ryan Gosling, Sam said, and there was something like a father's feeling in his voice, caring and gentle. Now that's a man who understands holding back and going all in the same amount, who knows how to keep things in and how to let loose. Ryan had this way of being very still, like he was always watching the world, always thinking, always figuring things out. He was a learner of everything, including feelings and desires and the complicated map of human connection. When Ryan wanted to be close to you, it was planned and done on purpose. Every touch meant something deeper than the outside. Every look had meaning and importance. Ryan was younger when they worked together, and there was something beautiful and almost holy about showing him what desire could look like between two men, about helping him understand himself. He was eager to learn, eager to check out every part of his own ability to feel, and he brought a kind of respect to every moment they shared, treating their connection like something important and worth taking care of. Sam had felt like protecting Ryan in a way he hadn't thought he would, like he was guiding someone younger through a world that tried hard to pretend didn't exist. That was dangerous and beautiful and absolutely worth exploring. Ryan was hungry, Sam said, his voice warm with the memory of it. Not just for doing well in his job, which he clearly had the skill and drive to do, but hungry to understand his own heart, hungry to know himself completely. And that hunger, that real curiosity about fun and connection and what it meant to love another man. It was beautiful to watch, beautiful to be a part of. He brought such honesty to everything, and that extended to his desire. There was no pretending, no games, just a man trying to figure out who he was and what he wanted. And that kind of realness is rare and valuable. The fifth name carried a different kind of heavy feeling, the heavy feeling of fame and loss. James Dean, Sam said, and the quiet time that followed told a huge story, spoke of memories that hurt deep inside. There was only a short time when our lives crossed. Only a moment in the huge stretch of years when our paths met and something amazing happened. Jimmy was trouble in the most exciting way possible. Couldn't sit still and always searching and beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. He had this raw manliness mixed with a deep weakness that was totally magnetic, impossible to look away from because of its honesty. You couldn't look at him without wanting him. You couldn't be near him without feeling pulled into his world like a planet circling a star. Jimmy didn't make love in the usual way. He took you over completely and totally. He took what he wanted with the sureness of someone who knew that his desire was worth getting, that his hunger meant something. They'd shared one night you couldn't forget in a hotel in Los Angeles back when the city felt different, when secrets were easier to keep. A night that Sam had played over and over in his memory, like an old record that was smooth from playing it too much. Jimmy had this way of making you feel like you were the only person who had ever truly understood him, who saw past the famous person to the boy underneath. And then he'd be gone, back to his own life, his own confusion. The strong feeling of that single night had shocked Sam with how complete it was. Jimmy had moved through the world with such a restless feeling, and that same restlessness showed up in everything he did. Every touch was urgent and searching. With Jimmy, it was like holding lightning, Sam said, his voice careful and measured, beautiful and dangerous and sure to disappear. You know it can't last, but you reach for it anyway because something that brilliant, that alive, is worth the pain that comes from letting it go. That night changed me in ways I didn't understand until years later. It showed me that what I felt, what I wanted was real and important and worth something, even if it could only happen in secret. The sixth name brought a complicated look mixed with respect and love. Paul Newman, Sam said clearly without stopping. That man was something else entirely, a huge, powerful thing dressed up as a movie star. Paul had this shocking mix of talent and charm that made you know right away why he was a star, why people were pulled to him like he was the middle of some secret gravity. But behind closed doors, Paul was searching too, couldn't relax in ways that his success couldn't fix. He was looking for something real, something true and not filtered in a world that wanted him to be a made-up dream, an idea of desire that had nothing to do with the actual man. Their connection had been about smart conversation first talks that went on late into the night about acting ways and the skill of finding truth in a performance about art and beauty and the hard job of being beautiful in this world. Paul was deep in thought, always thinking, a man who couldn't turn off his analyzing mind even when he was supposed to be relaxing. And then one night after weeks of these talks, it became physical. Paul's touch was soft, almost saying sorry, like he was surprised by his own ability to be gentle, like he wasn't quite sure how to touch another man with softness instead of hitting. There was a weak, open side to him that most people never saw, a side of him that the world wouldn't have known what to do with. Paul wanted to be loved for his mind as much as his body, Sam said with true tenderness in his voice. He wanted someone to see past the face, past the famous blue eyes and the star power and into the person underneath. He wanted to be known and accepted for the whole of who he was, not just the beautiful outside. I tried to give him that. I tried to show him that he was worthy of love that wasn't based on his looks or his fame or what he could do for you at work. I tried to make him understand that he was enough just as he was, just as a man. The seventh and final name hung in the air for a long time, heavy with history and sadness. Sam closed his eyes quickly, getting ready, and when he opened them again, there was something sacred in his look, something deep and painful all at once. Rock Hudson, he said quietly with great respect. The man who couldn't be who he was in public because the world wasn't ready for that truth. Rock had this sadness about him that you could feel even when he was smiling for the cameras, smiling for the studios and the bosses and the millions of fans who loved him. He was caught beautiful and very sad, caught inside a life that was a lie, forced to play a part even off the stage when we were together in the private places we'd made for ourselves, hidden corners where we could just be men. Rock was finally free. He could take off the famous mask and just be there. He could be a man loving another man without the world watching him closely, without the constant fear of being found out and having his life ruined hanging over his head. Sam's voice became heavy with feeling, weighed down with decades of memory and pain. Rock used to say that he felt like he was living someone else's life, like he was stuck inside a body and a name that belonged to an actor, not to him. That the real Rock Hudson, the one who loved men, the one who felt desire and tenderness and vulnerability, was buried so deep that he sometimes forgot what he felt like, forgot that he was real. Our time together was short, quick moments between his work and the careful watching that was all around him. The world was mean to him, very mean, in ways that the rest of us in different situations were spared. But those moments were sacred. They were him finally being allowed to exist as he was meant to exist as a complete human being with wants and needs and a heart that needed to be loved. I wish he'd been able to have more of that. I wish the world had been nicer to him. The interviewer had tears in her eyes, real tears that showed something deep was being shared right then. She stuttered, trying to find words that felt good enough for what she just heard. Sam, these are movie legends. Are you saying that these relationships were totally hidden from the world? Sam leaned forward a little, his movements careful and on purpose. And there was no shame in his face, only truth, only clarity. Hidden makes it sound like I was ashamed of them, that I wanted to hide who I was. I wasn't, I never was. But I was careful, protective. I guarded these men the way I would want to be guarded. In a world that wasn't ready to accept us, wasn't prepared to understand what we felt for each other. Keeping things private wasn't about being ashamed, it was about respect. It was about letting men I cared about a lot live their lives, without being destroyed by being exposed by the judgment and cruelty that would have come. He paused, his old fingers tracing shapes on the chair's arm, a gesture that suggested he was thinking deeply about the past. See, when you're a famous person, everything gets used up. Everything becomes stuff for people to talk about and guess about and judge. Your coffee choices become news, your love life becomes entertainment, your secrets become weapons. But those 7 men, those moments we shared, they were holy. They were pure. They were just about love, real human connection between men who understood each other in ways the rest of the world couldn't begin to understand. Those weren't things to be shown off or turned into gossip. Those were mine, those were ours. The host asked gently with real curiosity. Do you feel bad about keeping these relationships a secret? Do you wish you had told people years ago? Sam smiled, and it was a smile full of knowledge he gained from 81 years of life, through decades of keeping secrets, through learning when to talk and when to stay quiet. I don't feel bad about a single moment with any of them, not a single kiss or talk or night spent in someone's arms. What I feel bad about is that the world made us feel like we had to hide. What I feel bad about is that some of those men died without ever being able to fully say who they were. To stand up and say, I'm a man who loves men without being scared. What I feel bad about is that I lived so many years being only part of myself when I could have been whole. When all of us could have been whole if the world had just been a little kinder, a little more understanding. He looked right at the camera, right at the millions of people watching. But you know what? I'm whole now. At 81 years old, I'm standing here and I'm telling the truth. I loved men, I still do. I had close relationships with 7 amazing actors. Men who taught me what it means to be human, what it means to feel things deeply. And I'm not sorry, not even a little bit. Those relationships changed me completely. They taught me about desire and connection and the power of real human closeness. They made me a better actor because they made me more human, more real, more able to find truth in the characters I played. His voice grew stronger, more sure. People want to make this a scandal, want to turn it into some kind of shocking story, but it's not. It's just love. It's men loving men. It's people finding connection and warmth and understanding in a world that tells them that kind of connection is wrong, that it should be hidden or denied. But it's not wrong, it's right, it's natural, it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful things humans can do, which is to see another person completely and love them anyway. He sat back down in his chair, but there was no relaxing in his pose, only the satisfaction of a man who had finally said the thing you couldn't say. I've spent my whole life playing characters who were stronger, braver, more honest than I was in my actual life. Cowboys and outlaws and men with strong morals, and I'm tired of that lie. I'm tired of being anything else other than the truth. These 7 men, they made me who I am. Every talk, every touch, every moment of being open and honest, it shaped how I saw myself and what it means to be truly alive. And I'm thankful, truly thankful for every single moment with them.